Welcome back to the National Ploughing Championship here on the Agriland Pavilion 2023. Now, forget all the speculation about whether there's going to be a general election next year, and let's talk about the race to become president of one of the biggest farming organisations in Ireland. We have an exclusive interview here with Martin Stapleton, who is currently the IFA National Treasurer, and Francie Gorman, who is the IFA South Leinster Regional Chair. You're very welcome to the Agriland Pavilion. And first of all, Francie, tell me why you want to be president of the IFA.
Essentially, I suppose I grew up going to IFA meetings and demonstrations and seeing the power of IFA and the influence we could have across the political spectrum. And I suppose, I want to return IFA to its roots, if you want to call it, restore that power that we once had within the organisation, and put us in a position to be able to go into government and engage in whatever the issue is on the day and get delivery for farmers. I look back, particularly over the last 10 to 15 years, I think we've lost that. I think we've lost touch with members on the ground. I think you know, what I feel myself is I know the organisation inside out. I'm good with people. I believe I can communicate that good, strong, positive message for farmers in the media across all strands, and that's important. It can't be not just the agri-media, but mainstream media, social media. We need to up our game there as well. We need to make sure, and I hear it from our own county chairs, that sometimes they don't know what's going on in the organisation. So that's why I'm running. There's a huge number of issues there at the moment. I suppose you can really only deal with an issue as they come across your desk one by one. And I feel that over the last number of years, we haven't planted a flag on any issue.
Okay.
And if you don't do that, you're going to be taken for granted.
Okay. And Martin, why do you want this job?
I want to lead the defence of farmers against the number of different ways we're under attack at the minute. I suppose, and I know from talking to Francie, I didn't get into IFA to be president, but I found as I went along through it, I was able to make a huge difference for farmers. Put huge work in my time as farm business chair, made a huge difference from a point of view of putting in the pre-budget submissions, getting money for the different sectors. Innovative. We designed, or played a part at least in designing the first low-cost loan scheme, which has gone on not just in agriculture now, but in many sectors and across a lot of small and medium enterprises. So I found it to be a real way to make a difference in Irish society. As my time as treasurer, I've seen the way the organisation works. I've seen what can make a difference. I've seen what works for farmers and what doesn't work for farmers. And I believe going forward that I can do this job. And Francie, you'll forgive me for saying it because I'm sure you'll think the same, but I believe I can do this job better than anybody else. And I think farmers really need now, because of the amount of different ways we're under attack, I think farmers need the best representation that they can get.
And what makes you different from Martin then?
I'm better.
Well, you're saying this. You're saying this in the home ground today now. You're just, you've got your support with you because you're just up the road now. But what actually makes you different from Martin to get this job? Well, you're in the presidential race now. It's not. Yeah. It's time for the gloves to come off.
I think I'm more opinionated. I think if I have a view, I've always expressed it, 100%. And I'd say it might be the only view in the room, but if I believe it needs to be said, I'll say it. And anyone that's worked with me over the last 25 years since I became involved in IFA, and particularly in the last 10 to 15 years since I became involved at a senior level in it, knows that I'm proactive. If I believe if there's an issue that needs chasing down, you chase it down, not in a week's time, immediately. And I've a good record of delivery as county chair. I would have pushed particularly on the beef side of the house. I know in this county it was a huge issue. Beef farmer incomes. We organised 2 major meetings in the county at very short notice and got huge attendances at them. And I think what you need to be able to do as a president of IFA, if you have to be told the issues on a given day, you're not qualified for the job. You have to know what the issues are and go after them immediately.
When I saw this man outside the Department of Agriculture protesting about the issues. So Martin, why should you beat Francie to the job?
Francie thinks he's more opinionated. I know that I'm more opinionated. I think that across a whole series of issues. I pick the place to be, I stand my ground, and I don't walk backwards. And I've always been like that. I find the place, the right position to take on any issue that comes up along, and I stand my ground on that issue. And I think having an ability to draw a line in the sand and say, up until that point we'll work, we'll compromise, but we can't go any further than that. I think that's what differentiates me from Francie. I think I'm more strategic than he is. I think I have more of a long-term view, and I think I'm more consistent in my opinions.
So both of you have said that you want to build the reputation of the IFA again, that you want to become a stronger lobby. But you are both in the organisation at the moment. So how are you going to make a difference if you're president?
Well, if you're president of IFA, you have huge responsibility first and foremost. You have the you can influence positively the incomes of farmers across all sectors in the country by your actions. And how do you make a difference? I mean, on any given day, an issue will come up, and you've got to decide, number one, what you want. You've got to go in and be prepared. If it's the Department of Agriculture or the Department of Finance, you've got to be prepared to go in and proactively put forward your ideas. But the downside of that is that you have to come out and sell them to your own members. And I don't believe we've been doing that enough. We're not getting in there early enough with the department. And look, the people that went before us in this organisation, I remember in our own branch, marched to Dublin as a young man in '66 for the right to be able to go in and negotiate on behalf of farmers. And if that's been denied to us now, we need to be prepared to take whatever action is necessary on a given day to make sure that's restored. And I do feel at the moment that that is been denied to us for whatever reason. It's hard to say. Maybe it's an offshoot of COVID and the fact that meetings were held online. And maybe there's an arrogance around how senior people in the Department of Agriculture believe that they can design policy, design it on a laptop, and try to apply it at farm level. It's not farm simulator we're playing here. It's real life. It's big business. It impacts on people's ability to make a living, and those people don't understand how farms operate on the ground, and they need to engage with farm organisations like ourselves that are serious about what we do, that have good people working for us, that are able to put policy together and understand how it works, and get in there and engage with us.
But Martin Stapleton has always said that farmers should have the right to farm their family farm, that they shouldn't be restricted. And so how are you going to make your policies different than Francie's? There's a lot of stuff that unites you. What sets you apart? Like what makes you different there?
Well, my focus, and I can only work on my own focus for the president, is that we need, as an organisation, we need to communicate way better. We need, first of all, to communicate amongst ourselves inside in the farm centre. All of us who have jobs, voluntary jobs, I must add, as officers leading the different sectors. We need to communicate with each other way better. And we need to get to a decision-making process, which we have failed to do for the last number of years, a decision-making process that sees compromise between the different sectors so that we can all focus on uniting together. I believe we fail strongly to do that. We also need to communicate much, much better with our members. Too many of our members have no idea what the limits of the organisation are, how the organisation works, what it can achieve, and critically, they don't have an opinion or knowledge of what we actually do achieve. We've sold that really badly over the years. To a certain extent, we've been too modest.
So do you both agree with each other there then? Is that your common path? You know, there's no difference there. You're saying you need to communicate better. You're pretty much saying you need to communicate better too. It's a reputational. So where's the difference then? Whenever if I'm an IFA member and I'm saying, who will I vote for? What's the difference
Francis,
here?
One of the things I'm going to do is as president of the IFA, I am going to change the method by which we communicate, whereby we have a system where the only person who communicates on behalf of the association is the president and then the senior voluntary officers. We have tremendously knowledgeable staff in the farm centre, from the Director General down, who I think need to be empowered. And it will be a substantial change for the association. They will be empowered to get out and to represent us, as well as the president and the senior officers. Because we can't have a situation anymore where this knowledge is inside and it's not getting out of the farm centre.
And what do you think, Francie?
Well, I think first and foremost, when people look for president of IFA, they look for someone that that he or she himself is able to communicate the message themselves. It's easy to say you hand the responsibility over to staff or somebody else, but you need to be prepared to communicate that message yourself as president. Unquestionably, when farmers look for somebody to vote for as president of IFA, the first thing they will say is he good in the media? Is he confident enough to make the points, get our message across in a strong, positive way? And I still believe that the president of IFA, first and foremost, has to be a good communicator. I think I can do that job. I've done it. I've proven in the past I can do it. And I think, for me, I'm more of a team player. I honestly believe that. I will work with my county chairs in the South Leinster region. Ask any of them. We worked together as a good team for the last 3 years. I don't look to step out in front of them. If there's an issue that's of importance, we'll say, and I'll use an example like sheep in County Wicklow. I would have encouraged the chairman in Wicklow to make sure we had a sheep meeting, which we had in Tinnahealy, to highlight the issues. The same in the Rewetton issue in Offaly. We've got to work. If you want to communicate first and foremost.
What's the one big issue, though? What's the one big issue that both of you think is the key at the moment?
There's no question at the moment. The issue today is how we're being perceived in the media on environmental issues, and how the constraints of environmental regulation is impacting on our farm incomes. And like, we have got to be prouder in how we stand up for farmers. We produce food for 40 million people, and maybe Pippa Hackett's here today. She dissed that here in this constituency not too long ago. That's a massive, massive achievement. When you look where we came from in 1973 to the industry we have today, we've got to stand up and be more proud of how we sell that industry and the positives of it. That's along with income. Income is always an issue. But the current issue is that, no question.
And for you?
It's lack of respect. It's the lack of respect that farmers feel they get for all that they do for this country. The lack of respect we feel is we get from the government, and then, I mean, we've the issues for the last couple of weeks coming up there, and they just epitomise. The government made their decisions without any proper and meaningful interaction between us. There's no respect there coming from the farmer organisations. And critically as well, the lack of respect that we have now from many of the farmers in the country. Like, I want to drive this association so we get our farmer members to sit up and say, yeah, we are proud of the IFA again. And the non-farmer members too, who always were proud. And the non-member farmers who were always took note of the IFA. I want to get that back. So it's lack of respect for me is the single biggest issue.
Okay. Francie Gorman, Martin Stapleton, in the race to be the next IFA president. Thank you very much for joining us here today.